Hello, everybody. One Fun Guy podcast live in the studio. I'm live tonight with Mark of Mark's Metal Minute. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself and we'll get in with the show.
Yeah, man, great. It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me on the show. My name is Mark. Like you said, I'm with Mark's Metal Minute, a daily metal channel that's built on one premise: all metal, no fluff.
I love it. So, how did this start? Did you have a platform that you thought of, or did this just come about?
It started back in June, I think, June of 2020. Just right at the start of COVID. But I started it doing 1 minute reviews. In fact, the first review that I did was of a new album by Burning Witches. It was their new album, Dance with the Devil. But I did it in protest of long form album reviews. You know, I would read these album reviews. They were great. They were in depth. The problem is, all I wanted to know is, should I listen to this album or not? Is it good? Should I listen?
Sure.
And I would have to read through this really long or listen to this really long review to find out, no, I shouldn't. Okay. And so I decided that I was not going to do that. I was going to go all metal, no fluff, just straight to the heart of the matter. Should you listen to the album or not? Another thing that I did is also I decided that I was not going to review albums that didn't resonate with me. So if it's an album that I listened to but really didn't hit me, I wasn't going to review it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think life's too short to go through things I don't enjoy. If I'm not going to go back to the album, why review it? The second reason is just because an album doesn't resonate with me doesn't mean it doesn't resonate with anyone. So I'll let the people that like that album go listen to it, but I'm only going to cover the ones that I like. Now, that doesn't mean that I like everything about them. I'm always honest about things I don't like about albums, even if I like the entire album. But I will cover things that I don't like or weaknesses that I see and be very honest. But if I cover an album on my channel, you know that I like it.
Okay, so what would be the criteria then? Do 3 of the songs or 4 of the songs on the album have to be bangers or good, or does the whole album have to play start to end? How do you rank what qualifies as a good album?
You know, it's just a feel. It's a gut feel. I listen to it. If I go back to it and listen to it again, and then go back and listen to it again, I realize there's something there. So I don't really have any solid criteria where I say, 3 songs on the album or 50% of the album is good, I'll cover it. It's just a gut feeling. I either like it or I don't.
Okay.
And to be fair, there are albums that I've listened to that I didn't like and I'm not going to cover. And then for some reason I revisit them. Maybe somebody recommended it again. I'll go back and revisit it. And then maybe I'm in a different headspace, but I like it then. And so I will cover it at that point.
Okay. Now, when you cover an album, do you find it? Does the album find you? Do you dig deep? Where do you kind of get your headspace when you come across something?
That's a great question. There are multiple places. You know, a lot of people just assume it lands in my lap, but it doesn't. I have to go dig for it. I have to go look for it. I've got a network that I pull from. The first thing are podcasts. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, podcasts like Into the Necrosphere, Bangers and Mosh. There's a lot of other metal podcasts, and these guys surface stuff before it hits anyone's radar. They've got a big network. They hear about it before anyone else. And so I listen to their podcasts, then go listen to the albums. And I find a lot of music that way. Electronic zines, like Blessed Altar zine or Ghost Cult Mag. Keefe with Ghost Cult Mag, man, I find a lot of stuff from him. I read a lot of stuff from Sylvia at Blessed Altar zine. Find a lot of new music from her because we share a taste in music. So I find it from her. Also, I network with publicists. Now I realize that publicists are out pushing to get their albums covered. So everything that they send me still runs through the same filter as always before. If it doesn't resonate with me, I won't cover it. But if it does resonate, I will cover it. But I do find a lot of stuff like from Curtis and his team at C Squared, or Katie Irizarry at Suspiria PR. I find a lot of music from them. Also, I find this is where I find most of my music is from other creators.
Okay.
So I listen to, or I follow a whole community of metal-based creators. And I find, Slam Dad, Thrash Metal Dad, Metal Institute of Thrashology, a lot of different creators that I listen to, and I find records through them, or I find new albums from them. And then also the bands. I've got a lot of bands that are underground bands. They'll reach out to me. They'll see one of my episodes. They'll reach out to me and ask me if I would check out their music. And I'm always upfront again with my filter that I don't cover anything that doesn't resonate with me,
Sure.
but I'll check it out. And then the last thing is just streaming. Is I used to be on Spotify. I've dropped Spotify. I'm now on Apple Music, but I'll go into Apple Music and I'll look for new albums that are released. Just listen to them. Again, if they resonate, then I'll cover them. So those are the ways that I find. So I'm not waiting for an algorithm to feed me. I actually go out, dig into the underground and find albums that I want to cover.
Okay. Now, when a band reaches out to you, do they already have a song or a couple songs on a platform like Spotify or Apple Music already? Or are they sending you like MP3s or old school like discs, or like how are they getting the music to you to sample it?
It's a mixture of both. I do get some that will or they may give me a link to the MP3 on a website, website that's hidden, but they'll give me the link to it. Others will tell me it's on Apple Music or Spotify. I find a lot on Bandcamp.
Okay.
They'll tell me that they've got their new album out on Bandcamp, so I'll go there and listen to it. So it's a mixture of all of those ways.
Okay. Now, I know you cover a gamut of metal, from like black to death to grind to gore to all the other kind of styles. What appeals to you most, like sound-wise?
Got it. I love that question. And the reason I love it is I consider myself an OG metalhead. I mean, I started way back when. I'm showing my age now, but I started back in the early 80s when hair metal was just taking over. It was the gateway, big hooks, big hair. My ears were wide open. I discovered metal in 81 or so. I saw Motley Crue open for Kiss in Atlanta, where I'm from, and absolutely blown away. Became a huge Motley Crue fan. And then I got into hair metal. But very soon after that, I discovered new wave of British heavy metal. So bands like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, Saxon, Diamond Head. And I really got into that. It was faster to me. It was heavier, more dangerous. And so I always like to say that hair metal cracked the door.
Sure.
But heavy metal kicked it off the hinges. And then came this moment where I put on Ride the Lightning by Metallica, the first thrash metal album I listened to. I was like 19 years old. I was away at college. And I'd gotten a mixtape, which back then we would take cassette tapes and we would record different songs on it and swap these tapes. That's how I found Ride the Lightning. And then I went and got the album and listened to the whole album. And that opened my ears to what music could be. I loved the thrash metal sound. That started me on my path toward more of an extreme metal. So I went from thrash into death. Mostly what I listen to now is atmospheric black metal. So if you don't know what atmospheric black metal, anyone that doesn't know what the difference is between black metal and atmospheric black metal, I like to think of it as less angry noise, more cinematic. It's less like being punched in the face and more like standing on a mountain at 2 a.m. waiting for the sunrise. That's how I describe atmospheric black metal. So bands like Windeer, Winterfilleth, L&D, those are the bands that I listen to now. But I also listen to a lot of post-black metal. So bands like Cripple Black Phoenix. Post-black metal is a lot more moody, more expansive. And it also, it really bends genre rules. There's no set rules for post-black metal. So those are the ones that I listen to most often now. And if you watch my channel, you'll see that I cover a lot of atmospheric black metal and post black metal. In fact, on my top 25, my 25 heaviest hitters of 2026 so far, of the top 25 that I have, I think 22 of them are either black or blackened of some type.
Sure. Now, putting this music out to other people's ears that catch it, obviously, you know, your feed comes through a lot of metal channels and
Mhm.
it gets noted. Where do you like kind of find your kind of niche where if you find a black metal band, atmospheric or post black metal, and you like them, and you can't get an album, how do you translate that to where people could find it, or how could they see them, or like, because a lot of these bands I'm assuming are touring Europe and you know the areas they're from. I mean, some of them are probably from the US, but most of them will never set foot on US soil for quite some time.
Yeah, that is tough because there's a lot of bands that I listen to that I would love to see live, but like you said, they haven't made it to the States. I'm always watching. The good thing is we've got a thriving metal community here in Atlanta. A
Mhm.
lot of venues that play live music, live metal music, underground metal music. Uh, and so, a couple of years ago, I saw, I actually went to see the band I'm wearing, Noctambulant, the shirt I'm wearing. They opened for Mort Grinning. And
Okay.
Mort Grinning is a black metal band from Europe, from Sweden, and they had never toured the U.S. And this was their first U.S. tour. So by going to see the Noctambulant, I was able to see this other band that I had never been able to see before, and I may never get to see live again.
Right. Now,
So
when the
unfortunately,
bands
that's the case.
Right. When the bands come into town, though, do you tell them you want to see them and that you're excited? Do you like correspond with them at all? Do you just kind of show up? Do they recognize you? Do they know who you are? Do
Yeah, it happens both ways. I mean, with the Noctambulant, I had covered some of their albums. They had actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're going to be in Atlanta on these dates," and so I went and bought tickets. Again, I always like to buy tickets, even if a band says they'll
Sure.
leave them for will call. And the reason is by buying tickets and buying their shirts, buying their merchandise, I'm supporting the band, and I really want to do that. And so I bought my tickets to see the Noctambulant. There are other times I just show up, but I always try. This is one thing I like about underground music, not just metal, any type of underground music. The artists are so accessible. And so I will go to a show, even if I haven't announced that I'm going to be there to the band themselves. I always like to try to find them, at the merch table and talk to them at the table. Uh, so I really enjoy going and meeting the bands, and then I'll introduce myself, what I do. Uh, I do get recognized occasionally. Most of the time, they don't know who I am, but they think that it's really cool that I do Mark's Metal Minute once I explain to them what I do.
Okay. So now you have this kind of thing that you created, this Mark's Metal Minute, and you have a pretty big following on social media and you're
Mhm.
gaining some steam. Have any mainstream people that like you would have recognized from like back in the day reached out to you? Do they know who you are? Do you have like I'm kind of thinking like a, in my mind like an Eddie Trunk type of person or like somebody who has access to pretty much big bands. Do any of them come across you at all or make a comment or like your stuff?
No, I haven't had any big bands. Probably the biggest name would be, well, uh, yeah, no, I really don't have any of the bigger bands that reach out. I have a lot of underground. And I think the biggest reason for that is I really cover the underground heavily.
Mhm.
And so and those are the bands that's according to my mission. The mission statement that I have is I'm really trying to seek out these underground bands.
Sure.
And so I really focus on getting those, and they're the ones that really, really reach out. Dan Lorenzo is probably the biggest artist that has reached out to me. Dan Lorenzo is a very prolific guitarist and songwriter. He started out in a band called Hades. They were a thrash metal band back in the 80s. But then he went through a series of bands, Nonfiction, Vessel of Light, and all the way through a series of bands. And again, he's never been on the level of like a Dio, but he's a pretty big name. If people that are in metal, a lot of times have heard of Dan Lorenzo, and he reached out to me, and he and I have talked. So that was really cool, because I remember listening to his band Hades back in the day. I loved Hades. And so when he reached out to me to cover one of his albums by Vessel of Light. And I was like, wait a minute, is this the Dan Lorenzo of Hades? This is really cool.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That was really awesome. So I would love for Rob Halford to reach out. Just don't think it's going to happen.
Hey, you never know, right? You got to dream
That's
big.
it. Absolutely.
So the network of bands that you have, that these underground bands that you seek out, they talk amongst each other, right? I assume, do they kind of say, hey, check this guy out? Do you get a lot of bands saying, hey, this band recommended me to you, or this band told me to check, can you review our stuff? Is it kind of a network on the underground scene then?
Yes. In fact, along those lines, I had a gentleman reach out to me on Instagram and was telling me that his son was in a band, and he asked me if I would check that out. So I checked it out. Loved the band, loved the song that he sent me. So I listened to it. I covered that band. Then he reached out and said, hey, my other son is in another band. And so I did that. But yeah, there are a lot of times what will happen is a musician may be in a band that I cover. They'll reach out and say, hey, I'm also in another band. Would you check them out too?
Okay. So let me ask this. I don't want to kind of give it like a bad image, but if a band reaches out to you and you check them and you don't really care for their stuff, do you kind of not say anything to them and you just kind of let it go? Or are you just saying, do you like tell them, hey, listen, thank you for sending me your stuff, but it's just not me? And do you get any bad feedback from them? Do they like say okay, or are they kind of like?
I do. I'm very upfront. I will come back to them and say, hey, it just doesn't resonate with me. It's not my type of music. It's great stuff, but it's not for me. And I have never received any negative feedback.
Okay, awesome.
I've always gotten a thank you for listening. And I'll always tell them, hey, you've come out with new stuff. I'd love to listen to it. Please send it to me. I'd love to keep listening. And because bands do change and bands do evolve, and they may start resonating with me after a while, after a certain evolution.
Okay. So what's the fallout then if a band sends you a song and you really like it, but it's only a one song and they're working on other songs and you like that one? Do you kind of have the inclination that you're going to like the other stuff they put out? Or is it just that one song that kind of hit and then the rest of it, like what is kind of that like with that situation?
I've always, and I'll always be upfront. If it's one song, I will say, love this song. I'm excited to see where they go. I'm waiting on waiting on their new album or on the full album. Once it comes, I'll listen to it. Most of the time, if I've liked that first song, I like the rest of the album.
Okay.
And that's what I found. I can't, in fact, I cannot think of a time where I liked the first song, but didn't like the album overall.
Okay. Now, what about some of the black metal bands that put out an album, but it's 2 songs, but they're 27 minutes long? Do you have to, do you find yourself having to listen to that if it's kind of like, not often, but it happens a lot with more black metal bands, ironically enough, than any other genre where they put out these just.
It absolutely does. I mean, there are so many albums, like you said, that are black metal, especially atmospheric black metal, that, where they're singing more about, or their songs are more about nature and natural things, instead of being the evil of traditional black metal. And so, like, they may go 10, 15, 20 minutes for one song. That can get tough at times, especially to review, because I'm trying to think, how do I review this? How do I describe this song? It's 20 minutes and it changes. There's so many changes. It's almost like 3 different songs sometimes.
Okay. So I just was wondering because like a lot of times if you have to listen to that and it's like some of it might be good, but some of it might be bad, and you got to sit there and kind of because you can't skip through it. It's
Oh
it,
yeah,
so
yeah. It's
that's
tough. It can be tough.
all right.
Uh,
Fair enough.
but if
Let me
it
ask.
grabs me, that's
Yeah,
okay. I'll sit and listen
sure.
to it.
So let me ask this question. I know you do a lot of the underground stuff. Has there ever been like an underground band where a band member's been in a pretty predominant band and they kind of created their own little thing and now that they don't want to like associate that little band with their bigger band? Has that happened at all? Have you noticed in the underground scene, especially with like black metal? So like I know like you have the guys in 1349, they kind of split out and they do these little independent black metal kind of cliches where it's just two of their friends from Stockholm that they grew up with and they want to play in a band and they just kind of do it. Do those guys ever kind of you come across them at all where you recognize the name or you might see the black metal paint or the corpse paint and you're like, that looks familiar and that voice sounds familiar, but you just can't like it's coming from a better, bigger place?
And it's really common in black metal bands for
Hmm.
sure. Death metal as well. Any of the extreme metals, that tends to happen. They tend to go from band to band. Like you
Right.
said, they'll have well, Cripple Black Phoenix. I mentioned them a moment ago. Post
Hmm.
black metal. Cripple Black Phoenix. I love their stuff. I've been listening to them for years. Fantastic band. Well, three of the four members formed another band last year, and it actually it's called Johnny the Boy, and they
Okay.
put out an album that made my 25 heaviest hitters of 2025. Fantastic album, and they didn't hide the fact that they were or that they were members of Cripple Black Phoenix, which Cripple Black Phoenix put a new album out this year. That's
Okay.
on my 25 heaviest hitters of 2026. So, but the two bands, Cripple Black Phoenix and Johnny the Boy, were very different. If you didn't know that they shared members, it wouldn't
Hmm.
be obvious. But they didn't try to hide
Okay.
it, and I guess it's because they're exploring a different side of their creativity.
Sure. And I've always appreciated that, right? Like I
Oh yeah,
love when bands say, "Listen, we're known for doing this, but let's do this without having the namesake," i.e., Metallica you mentioned earlier, right? Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, they had some great albums, and then they had some so not so great albums, and it was like, why, right?
Yep.
you know,
No, yeah,
eh,
I'm in the definitely in the Metallica band camp that anything
yeah,
past and Justice for All,
right,
probably I'm not going to listen to more than
sure,
once or twice at the most.
yeah,
And I've listened to them once or twice already. I'm not going to go back
right.
to them.
That's
But and
true.
Justice for All, I listen to a lot. Master
Yeah,
Puppets, Ride the Lightning, all of those. Kill 'Em
sure.
All. I listen to those albums a lot.
So let's get another question in. I wanted to find out a lot of the black metal bands, especially the earlier ones, right? The production was really bad. And
Oh yeah.
now with modern computers and synths and stuff like that, the atmospheric sound now is becoming more of a trend where it's easier to do, even though the music might be raw, the final production is actually pretty good, right? Because
Yes.
they're able to put it through a program that basically takes all the kind of scrappiness out of it. What do
Oh
you
yeah.
prefer? Do you like that raw sound or do you like kind of the produced ambient sound that it's coming with now? Like, what do you prefer?
I think that I think there's a place for both. I
Okay.
mean, I came up listening to the second wave of black metal bands like Emperor, who had that more raw,
Hmm.
that low production raw sound. Really love that. Even early Mayhem, the first Mayhem album.
Yeah,
Not my favorite, but I did like it. I
sure.
like that low fidelity. But there are some bands that really try to do that low fidelity sound, that low production sound that just they
Sure.
don't make it. It's not
Right.
that good. But I really like the newer sound. I do like that cleaner production. And like you said, it's possible to make the music raw without having the low production
Hmm.
that almost hurts your ears at times.
Sure.
So I like the newer style really, but I still go back and listen to that, especially the second wave of
Sure.
black metal bands like Emperor, I love bands like that.
Yeah. Now, another question I had too is that I've seen it more in the black metal genre than actually black metal and industrial, right? How
Oh
do
yeah,
you feel about these one-man shows where they play all the instruments, they sing, but then they can't really go live because they don't have a band. They've done
oh, yeah.
everything themselves. How do you fit that category? Like, is that appealing to you? Is that kind of cool? Is it like you question them? Like, what do you do next? Like, how do you have that conversation with a person?
I think it's really cool. In fact, there's an industrial metal act out now called Arsenic.
Yeah, that's my buddy.
Arzenik. Oh, really? I love Arsenic.
So me and Kelly actually did a
Yeah.
podcast together called The Pod Cult. So he's
Oh,
local to Chicago. So he's my friend. So that's kind of where,
that's right. I forgot
yeah,
he was
yeah,
local to Chicago. I love this guy's music. Man,
yeah,
it's fantastic, and he is so talented, and he can do all of these by himself. I would love for him to be able to put a band together one day
yeah.
and tour.
And so I asked him on the last podcast that we were on because he's going to be playing a show in August. I believe it's his first
Mhm.
one. And I said, "What are you going to do?" And he goes, "I haven't figured it out yet." He goes, "Because I don't really know." He goes, "It's just me." So he doesn't know if he's going to program the music or if he's going to have somebody with him. He's trying to figure that out because I was like, "What's your stage setup going to be?" Because we're both fans of a band called Author and Punisher, where the
Oh
guy
yeah,
created the
yeah,
machine, right?
yeah. I
So
love that.
I said, obviously, you don't want to take his idea, right? Because he's an engineer and he built this machine that plays all the stuff that he. And I asked him, "What are you going to do?" And he's like, "I have no idea." So it's kind of funny that, like, I just thought, like, what your take was on people like that. Cause I love the idea, but also it's hard to play live when you're only one person.
And like
So
you said,
that's the,
or like we discussed earlier, I like seeing bands live. I mean, I love listening to music.
Mhm.
I love listening to them either streaming or Bandcamp or on an album or whatever. But there's not. It's hard. Um, it's hard to not like that live music. It's hard to grab that energy of a
Sure.
live show on an album. And so I love watching live music. Love going to shows, and
Sure.
so I hope Arsenic figures it out, and I think he will. This guy, I
Yeah.
mean, he's figured it out to this point,
Right.
so I think that he will. I was covering another album recently. And I was asking the artist, to give me a bio, and he's a one man show, but his goal is to put a band together so that he can tour. So I
Right.
was able to put that into my review. Hey, I'm excited. I want to hear more from this. I really want him to put a band together, and I'd love to see him on tour. Makes it to Atlanta, I'll be there. I'll be in the crowd.
Sure. Now, the bands that you cover, do they ever send you footage of their live shows? Do you ever like, does somebody go to YouTube and record it and send it to you, like so you could see them? Does everybody ever made the connection to do that, or do they follow
No
up with you?
one, no one has. That would be
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
But I do. I'll also cover when I go to live shows. I'll do 1 minute reviews on live shows.
Sure.
For example, I saw the Friendship Commanders. They're not black metal, but they are fantastic alt metal. I saw them live in Atlanta just a month and a half ago. They were fantastic, and so I covered their live show, did a Metal Minute on their live show,
Okay.
and I do that, when I go see bands live. So, I never thought about asking. I may even start asking that. Could you send me some live footage? I'd like to see
Yeah.
that and review it.
Sure. Yeah. Now, the Metal Minute, do you ever do an expose on somebody? Have you ever done like, okay, here's an actual album review of something that you actually love, or do you just stick to that minute because that's your thing?
I said, well, and actually, and I think it's funny, a few people noticed over the past 2 years, my Metal Minutes have gone to become really Metal Minute ish.
Yeah.
They're more of a minute and a half, usually not more than 2 minutes, but a minute and a half to 2 minutes. The reason I did that is that the social media sites that take video, they will not push out videos that are 1 minute or less.
Mhm.
They won't push them out to anyone. So I was doing these 1 minute videos that were just sitting there, and so I
Okay.
started doing them a minute and a half, and I started getting pushed, and I noticed I started building followers then.
Okay.
So that's why they moved. That's why the time has increased from a minute to a minute and a half.
Sure.
I was very proud of being able to keep my videos to 1 minute or less.
Right.
And now, like I said, I had to go a little bit longer. But that actually, to be fair, it makes it easier.
Okay.
And I'm still able to keep it short and quickly tell you, should you listen to this album?
Sure. Now, I love the idea and I love the concept of it. That's why I wanted you on the podcast. Is this something you see growing into a full-time thing, like monetizing this and actually like being sponsored and like being able to go to different shows or maybe going to different countries? Is that something you thought of, or like are you thinking about it, or is that just kind of you enjoy what you're doing and you're in that space?
I've kind of enjoyed what I'm doing in that space. Now, what I've done is I have expanded my love of metal music into by my day job, I guess. My night job is Mark's Metal Minute.
Right.
My day job is I'm a corporate training director. And what I've done is I've expanded my love of metal music and I've blended it with my business acumen.
Okay.
To create a what I call the mosh pit method.
Okay.
So it's a way of applying metal music to business needs. And in fact, I've written had two books published using the mosh pit method. One of them is called Mosh Pit Productivity. So it is the productivity to-do list that I use, the system that I use, that I've been using for about 18 years now, to help make me better and to get everything done each day. And I put that out 2 years ago. And then this past year, I published a book called Backstage Pass to Rockstar Teams. It's all about how to build strong teams at work.
Okay.
So I really see that expanding more than Mark's Metal Minute, but I love doing Mark's Metal Minute.
Sure.
And I don't see me stopping.
That's awesome. Now, how is the take on your the scene that you've almost created, right, with the social media and stuff like that? What are some changes you had to adapt to and make? Obviously, we talked about making the clips a little bit longer, but what is the trend now with social media and the algorithms? Are you trying to just do your thing and you don't care about that, or are you conforming to what social media says you should do, or how are you navigating this?
I'm a blend. I'm not somebody that just chases the trend just to try to get views, but I realize that for my channel to continue, I've got to get some views. So I have to do some of those things. Some of the things that I do is I do follow some of the trends on TikTok, for example, pushing out stories. You know, stories are really what causes TikTok to push your other videos out to other people. So I've been doing that. I'll do short, like use photos that put text in them and send that out into a story. The whole goal is to try to get more people to watch my longer videos. So I will do that. One of the things that I've recently done is I've started adding clips to the end of my videos. So I'll have one of the songs that I really liked on the album that I'm covering, and I'll do a short clip of it at the end. I had to kind of navigate through copyright on that and learn how to keep the clip short enough so that it doesn't violate copyright,
right?
And that I can get it published, because some of these services, if you violate copyright, they take it right down immediately.
Right.
And so I had to figure that out, and so I've just finally figured that part out. Started adding the clips to the videos that I'm doing. I think I'm getting a little bit better at editing videos.
Okay.
I didn't know how to do that to start.
Right.
But now I'm getting a little bit better at it. And so I am learning things as we go.
Okay. Now, has anybody tried to pirate your stuff? Does anybody come in and say, I'm you? Do they reuse your videos? Has anybody repurposed you? Are you pro or against it? Or how do you feel about that kind of?
I am against it. However, I've not seen it. I haven't seen it happen to me, but I have seen it happen to other creators. I'm against pirating, because that's not, again, that goes back to almost, really the copyright. Mm-hmm. Even though, I mean, I guess I don't have a copyright on my videos, that's still something I've created.
Sure.
Now, if somebody asks me if they can use it for something else, and I give them permission, that's one thing. Sure. But to pirate it and use it without permission, I'm totally against that. And
I didn't know if you've come across that. Yeah, I usually ask content creators that question because a lot of them are like, they have the mindset where if somebody's going to steal my stuff and put it out, it's only going to get me more views. And then other people are on the way of, I'd rather have them ask me and get permission, like you just said, versus just doing it. But then a lot of people are starting to create fake profiles and just taking all of your hard work, putting it
Oh
on them and saying, well, I'm, on a platform you've never been on before. And you're like, oh, I love you on this. And you're like, I'm not on that platform. So someone's taking your stuff. So,
yeah, exactly.
I usually
And
ask
you
the
know they're
content
taking
creators
it,
how they feel about that.
and they're taking it and they're trying to monetize it. And if they're monetizing, I should be getting that money, not
Sure.
them.
That's how people feel, right? And there was an account that was hacked a couple months ago. It was TikTok, kind of popular, but one of the people were stealing other things and they monetized it and they were getting paid.
Oh
And so
wow,
they were both getting, because the views were getting thousands of views, and it was somebody else that was basically taking the money. So it was a
wow.
big thing. So I was just curious how you felt about content
Yeah.
creation and things like that, because you work hard, right? You put in effort to find the bands, to do the homework, to do the research, to make the video. Even though it's a minute and 30 seconds long, people don't know the backs of what it takes to actually make a minute and 30-second clip. It's probably 2 hours worth of real work or more.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I've got to go listen to the album, and then I have to a lot of times listen to it a second time. I'm taking notes as I listen, and then I have to I write every one of I have a script that I use, so
Mhm.
I write a script for every review that I do, because I don't want to just jump in and start saying it, because then I'll stumble all over my words,
Right.
whatever. So I'll actually write a script, and I have a format. If you watch enough of my videos, you can tell what my format is. Where I have the hook and where I introduce the segment, and
Mhm.
then I'll introduce the album and the band, and I'll do a short bio of the band. I always try to look for themes in the album. I'll try to look for meanings of the album names or the band name, and I'll add those things in.
Sure.
And then I'll always close with, "Have you heard this album? If not, go give it a listen, come back and drop your thoughts in the comments." So I have a format that I use, but I still have to write the
Sure.
meat of it. And I'm doing 5 a week. So I'm having to write 5 of these every week. So I'm having to listen, take notes, write, and then record.
Sure. Now, the bands you've listened to and have put out, has their viewership increased because of you? Have any of them reached out and thanked you for saying, "Hey, we only had 500 listeners on Spotify, and then after your review, now we have 1,500"? Has anybody's like numbers really spiked because of what you did for them?
Yeah, I don't know if they've spiked, but I have had musicians and artists reach back out to me and say, "Thank you. Our views went up after your video aired. So thank you for that."
Okay.
So I don't know if they spiked, but at least
But
we
it's
got a
got to
few
be a
more
little
listeners.
rewarding, right? That you
Yeah,
have a band that
absolutely.
you stumbled across that now people watch you, with your thousands of viewers that might have never heard a band before. I'm one of them, right? Because I follow a lot of the bands that are on, your thing. I'm like,
Well,
I'll go
thank
take
you.
a listen and see. So, just because of what's out there, right? And it's very unique because you mentioned earlier that you listen to a lot of other guys, and obviously, Blabbermouth is another one that I
Oh yeah,
follow and
yeah.
the Pit and stuff like that. But there's a guy on YouTube he goes by Blegh, blah, or
Okay.
whatever his name is. So he likes the hardcore breakdowns. So he'll say, listen to this blah or listen to this blay, and it'll be some guy growling like really gutturally, and he'll be, and so that's his thing. But his videos are like very well produced. Like
Oh
he's
yeah.
got a Discord and he's kind of got like everything. And it's kind of like, I like your take on things because it seems like it's more genuine and real of like, hey, I could do this if I wanted to. I don't need these thousands of dollars of computer and programs and things like that to make it sound good in a studio. You kind of just do it. And I think that's the most appealing thing because when people see you, they're like, well, if I wanted to review a band, I guess I could do it. Right. It's not.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think you've kind of established for other creators to say, listen, I don't need all of this fancy stuff. I just need my heart, my ear, and what I want to say about it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. That
Yeah.
that that is great. And I mean, I didn't intentionally set out for that, but now that you've said it, I appreciate it. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
exactly how I feel. I record mine on my iPhone. I record my
Yeah,
videos on the iPhone. I edit them on the
sure.
iPhone. So, and I have lavalier mics that I use, record them on the iPhone, and then, like I said, edit them all on that iPhone. So I love the fact that we're living in a world of technology that makes
Sure.
it easy to do things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, you know, and the thing is that, you know, now I think music is more reachable than ever, right? You know,
Oh yeah.
you mentioned mixtapes, right? Like
Oh yeah.
listening to, you know, and now you can pick up your phone and pretty much find anything, right? Like there is some really obscure stuff out there that is very accessible. Where back in the day, you needed to like really headhunt. And in Chicago, I don't know if you guys had this in Atlanta, but there used to be a magazine called The Pit, and they used to give a CD on the
Oh
insert of it. So you would buy the magazine for like $6, but there was a CD in there, and it would have at least three or four of the bands that it were mentioned in the articles in the magazine. So if it was
okay.
Demu or Cradle or you
Yeah.
know Cannibal Corpse or Deicide or whoever, that one of the, at least their tracks would be on that CD. But
Oh,
that's how you were established back in the day to the underground, right? And then in the
yes.
Chicagoland area, we were very fortunate to have Nightfall Records, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
yeah, so they had anything that you could imagine that wasn't in a Sam Goody or Rolling Stones or any of the famous stores around us. You can go to Nightfall and find it. And there was like really some deep cuts of bands that were like, I didn't even know this existed. So that
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of the whirlwind for us, like in our area, because cell phones didn't exist back then. Right? You know, there was no way to, you know,
Yeah.
digital music wasn't even a thing, right? You were buying
Oh yeah.
CDs or albums or tapes because that was all that
Yeah.
was there. And so it was kind of neat to see how far we've come evolutionary to literally just having a phone and going to Apple Music and be able to find the bands you mentioned
Oh yeah.
relatively easy, right? Because
And
before
how
that you wouldn't do
fast
it.
is yeah, how
Right.
fast is advanced? How fast has this evolved? I mean,
Sure.
it's been very, very fast. Yeah, I remember getting the CDs though that were a compilation of multiple
Yeah.
bands and listening to it. I found a lot of new bands that were
That's yeah. And so actually, funny enough, me and Kelly actually talked about that because my kind of realm into the super underground was Earache because Earache used to have those
yeah, yeah,
compilations. So you'd
yep,
get like Fudge Tunnel and you'd get like, and I'd
oh
be like,
yeah,
who is this band? Right. And you'd listen to the compilation because those CDs were only $3 or $4. So they
yeah,
weren't 25 or $30 like normal CDs were at that time. You know,
yeah.
I'm dating myself now when CDs used to be $20,
I
right?
know.
21.99 or 22.99. They weren't 12.99 or 11.99 like they were expensive. So getting a compilation CD for 4.99 was awesome. And
Oh
Earache
yeah,
was one of the first labels that I remember that had it, right?
yeah,
Metal Blade had the compilation back in the day, but it was hard to
yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah. I remember Metal Blade. I listened to them a lot. Those were, I mean, I did get a lot of those. And like you said, they cost just a few bucks.
Yeah,
And it was great because you get it was almost like the evolution of the mixtape.
yeah, it was.
We got the mixtapes, then we got the compilations, and then from there it really evolved, through Napster and then into
Sure.
streaming very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we joke around like the Napster and the Kazas and the Bearshas of the world, right? But
Yeah.
that was like the springboard between
Oh yeah.
what people had and what they could get, right? So listening to a live song that you could never hear before was kind of a whirlwind because you would just sit there for hours and try and find these songs by these bands of like, deep cuts that they had. So, I remember I was in college and we would just sit around the computer and be like trying to find songs that were you couldn't hear before. And now, like I said, go into your phone, you just type it in and boom, it's there, whether it's
There it
YouTube,
is.
Apple, Spotify, or whatever. So it's kind of neat. So you
Absolutely.
know
And a lot of times if you can't find, on Apple, I can go to Bandcamp and find it.
sure.
So even if I can't find it on the streaming service I'm using, I can usually go to Bandcamp and find it. Or a lot of
Sure.
times YouTube. So I mean, usually it's somewhere.
Yeah. So as we start to wrap up, I just want to kind of get your take on, you mentioned you did the top 25 and stuff like that. Name a band that really shocked you when you heard it that you didn't think you might like it, but it actually like was very appealing to you.
Oh,
Like,
that's easy. In fact, it was my number one album of last year, but it was their first album. But Spirit World,
okay,
and I wasn't sure. It wasn't that I didn't think I wouldn't like them. I just wasn't sure. I
yeah,
mean, these guys are. I don't know if you're familiar with Spirit
I
World.
am.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
You know,
so
they
the country western take on metal, right? Like
exactly. I mean, you've got these guys from New
it's
Mexico that are wearing nudie suits, the 50s Western suit
Mhm.
with cowboy hats and their nudie boots, and they're playing this blackened thrash metal that's just, I don't know, it just blew me away the first time I heard it. But I didn't, when I first saw them, I thought I'm never going to like this band.
Yeah.
And then I put on the album Death Western, which was their second album actually.
Mhm.
So I put on Death Western, blew me away. And then
Yeah.
last year, Eldorado, which was they released last year, it was my number one album of last year, and it blew me away as well. And it was very different to me
Sure.
than Death Western.
Yeah.
They keep evolving, and I'm really excited to see where they go next.
Yeah, I you know what, it's weird because I've noticed that like recently I think Kubla Khan is starting to take that
Oh
approach
yeah,
as well. They're starting
yeah.
to incorporate that. And a band that was doing it kind of even before Spirit World was Upon a Burning Body, because
Yes.
they
Okay.
would
Yeah.
kind of dress in the suit, the singer wore the suit, right? On
Yeah.
stage. And it's like a deathcore band usually is kind of shorts and t-shirts and stuff. And this guy's coming out with a three-piece suit on, right? He's got the vest and the tie and the so Upon a Burning Body, I kind of give them credit for establishing that kind of
Yeah.
movement, because every show they start out, right? It's the stars are bright, so big and bright,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they start crushing it. So yeah, Upon a Burning Body is one of my
I had
intros to
never
that.
made that connection, and that is a fantastic connection. But you're right, and I love about it, Upon a Burning Body.
Yeah.
But I had never made the connection of the influence that they had ultimately on Spirit World.
Yeah, and Spirit World is very unique, right? Because they're wearing the outfits. Everyone's dressing like that, right?
Yeah.
They come out with the boots with the spurs and they kind of got the whole atmosphere going with the hats
Oh
and
yeah.
everything. Upon a Burning Body didn't really do it to that extent,
Mhm.
but it was just kind of the sound, I think. But Spirit World is awesome. They're very unique and eclectic. And another band that's out there that's kind of doing a weird thing too is Bloodywood, right? So
Oh
they're
yes.
kind of
Yeah.
doing that kind of Middle Eastern, Indian kind of old school sound with the thrash metal. It's kind of unique now to hear that kind of
Oh yeah.
sound that you don't really have that
In
before.
my
And
in my day job, I work. I work with a team based in India,
okay,
and I love it. So I'm able to, when I talk to them about the
mhm.
fact that I am a metalhead, I'll bring up, oh wait, have you heard of Bloodywood?
Yeah,
Always bring up Bloodywood.
yeah,
I have yet to find anyone that's heard of them, but
right.
I know that I'm going to at some point.
Yeah. It's what, and I think, their approach on their heritage is great, right? Because a lot of the Mexican metal bands used to do that back in the day too, right?
Oh yeah,
Like you'd
yeah,
have, the even before Brujeria, like you had trans metal doing the mariachi style metal, right?
oh
And it
yeah,
was kind of
yeah.
a, neat thing. And it's just kind of now I think people are reaching on the heritage, or at least where they're coming from, right? And kind of putting it out there. So it's
Love that. I love it because that adds a level of authenticity to their music,
mhm.
and it sets them apart.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
really
It
like
it
that.
It absolutely does. So, Mark, just tell us where we could find you. I'll link all your stuff in the socials. I didn't know about the book, so I'm actually super stoked about that. Let me know where you can find the books if they're anywhere, and I'll link everything in the description of the video when I put it on YouTube.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm Mark's Metal Minute everywhere. I'm Mark's Metal Minute on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all of the social media on Mark's Metal Minute. My books, the two books, Mosh Pit Productivity and Backstage Pass to Rockstar Teams, both of those can be found on Amazon in both paperback or as ebook under my name, Mark Morris, Morris. So you can find either one of those on, or both of them on Amazon. Uh, and I would, I love it when people go find the books and they get something
Sure.
out of it, and then they reach out to me and say, "Hey, I read your book and I got this out of it. Thank you so much," because that's a great feeling. And if you ever do read Mosh Pit Productivity, you'll see that I have in it. One of the things I do every day is part of my productivity routine is always end my day with an encore.
Okay.
So, the encore of a metal show, is the band finishes playing. They're like, "Thank you, good night." They leave the stage. The crowd wants more. They start cheering. They're clapping. They're chanting. "We want more. We want." The band hears them. The band comes back out for the encore, and they play usually their most requested
Sure.
songs. They play it. The show ends on a high note. The band's pumped up to go backstage. The crowd is pumped up to leave and go home. Everybody thinks it's a great show. Well, every day I like to end mine on an encore. So it's something great that happened that day. Doesn't have to be epic, just something really good.
Sure.
And then that way at the end of the week, I look back through all of my encores for the week and I think, what a great week I had.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, being on the One Fun Guy podcast is my encore for today.
That's awesome. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Out of all the bands you've ever seen, who had the best encore?
Oh man, that is tough. Probably would be one band that I would say would have it, but I didn't see them live. Unfortunately, would be Dio. I think Dio would have a great one. I never got to see him live. I should have had a chance, and I kept saying, "Oh, I'll catch him next time." And then unfortunately, he passed, and I wasn't able to see him. Probably Judas Priest.
Okay.
I just think that Rob Halford just brings it. I mean,
he is fantastic. And
every time he steps on stage, he brings it. And I saw them back probably the early 90s, the first time I saw them live. It was not in the 80s. We were actually out of the 80s. They were fantastic. And then I saw them a few years ago. Still fantastic. And they put on a great show all the way through. And then the encore, they come back and just really blow it out.
Yeah.
And everybody left on an extremely high note.
That's awesome. I'll tell you, mine is Pantera. So whenever they play, they always play Cowboys from Hell as their encore. And it just, I mean, I've never seen a crowd erupt as much as when Dime comes back on and starts that chord. Like it is just, it's something to see. Now I've seen the new Pantera but I was very fortunate enough to see the 99, 2000, 01, 02, and 03 versions of them. And those were the best shows, and their encore was always the best. So Pantera's got my vote.
I could see that. I love Pantera. Their whole live show was fantastic.
Yeah.
With Dime and Benny, I mean, all of them, they just really played so well together. And a fantastic live show. And I agree with you. Great encore. I'm going to stick with Judas Priest, but
I like it. Yeah, for sure.
I could definitely see where you're coming from with Pantera.
Awesome. All right, Mark. Well, thank you for being an awesome guest. I'm so proud that you do the Mark's Metal Minute. I'm so happy that it's successful. I can't wait to see what you come up with in the future. And who knows? Maybe we'll revisit this down the road and have you back on and see what other bands you find out, down the road.
Absolutely, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
If you make it to Atlanta, let me know.
I will for sure.
If I make it to Chicago, I'll reach out.
Sounds great. All right, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you.